Before we get started, I got a couple thank yous to send out. To those that have used the SportsBeat KC offer to buy a subscription, and to those who rated and reviewed us on their podcast apps. You're our heroes. Thanks a lot.
I mean, I enjoy it. Obviously, we've had pretty good success. I've had a good year, winning a championship and winning a gold medal, but and my wife is happy, loves Manhattan. So as long as my health is good and we're enjoying what we do, I enjoy working with young men. And if we keep good quality kids in the program that you can work with and feel good about, I don't see any reason to retire soon. I still feel young. I still feel like I don't know if I have quite as much energy. I used to be able to stay up till 2 or 3. Now one, midnight, 1 o'clock. I'm a little bit drained, but I still feel like I got the energy to keep coaching.
That was Kansas State coach Bruce Weber in an exclusive interview with Kellis Robinett. You'll hear more of Kellis's interview with the coach of the defending Big 12 champion Wildcats in just a moment on SportsBeat KC, the daily sports podcast presented by Big O Tires. It's Wednesday, October 16th, and you're getting some college football and basketball talk today. The Star's Jesse Newell covers Kansas, provides the update of KU's latest basketball commitment, and tells us why this is an important get for the Jayhawks. And columnist Vahe Gregorian stops by to talk about the new entry in the AP Top 25 football poll, the Missouri Tigers. And guess where Mizzou resides in the SEC East standing? Let's pick up with Kellis Robinett's conversation with Bruce Weber.
You've had quite a bit of recruiting success the past couple weeks. What do you attribute to that? Why have you guys been so good?
Oh, I got to give credit to our coaches. They've done a great job of getting out and creating positive relationships. We've always felt like if we could get kids to campus, we get a chance. We have great facilities. I think the people, the relationships, our basketball family, I think all does, are positive factors in trying to get them. Now it's not always easy to get the kids to come to campus, but we've been able to focus on the right guys and get them to campus, and we've had some success.
On paper, this looks like it should be your top-rated class at Kansas State. How excited are you about it?
Oh, we're excited. There's no doubt. We kind of had some guys we knew we wanted, and we focused on those guys. And like I said, our coaches did a great job with them. Our players do a good job helping out when kids come to campus. And so you feel good, but it's obviously until they get here and prove it, it really doesn't mean a whole lot. But on paper, like you said, it's a good class, and it's really meeting all our needs that we kind of had focused on in the first place.
Has the success you guys have had the last 2 seasons given you a recruiting bump, you feel like?
I don't think there's any doubt that it's helped. We've gotten some nice exposure. I wouldn't say we're a household name, but we still, I think we have some respect now. It helps. There's no doubt. But I still, at the same time, we have a funny story trying to recruit a kid from Kansas City, and we were struggling, and I asked him who won the Big 12 last year, and he gave me 3 answers, and none of them was us. And so obviously we weren't a household name with him.
Okay, well, that's interesting. When coaches have success like you guys have the past couple of years, inevitably, some other job offers come up and stuff. I don't think I've ever asked you this before, but have you ever gotten any interest elsewhere since you've been the K-State coach?
Yeah, I've had calls since I've been here and reaching out just to see if you have an interest or whatever. But we like I said earlier, we love Manhattan. We love the opportunity to be at K-State. For us, it's a great situation. We have, we've developed really, really positive friends and relationships, and so we're happy. And hopefully, this is a place I can finish out. And in coaching, very few guys finish on their own terms, and I guess if I had a goal, that would be one of them. But, I just still appreciate being at Kansas State and all the opportunities and success we've had.
So you've been at K-State, Illinois, Purdue, Southern Illinois. What separates K-State from those places? I know they're all different, but what kind of makes K-State unique, and why do you think you've had success here?
To me, the people. And I know I don't want to say it's Coach Snyder always. When I heard that quote for the first time, I didn't understand it till I was here, and once I got here, it's so true. The people, they care. A good place to be part of, and I think that's very similar to Purdue. To be honest, it's very similar. Similar type of people and passion, and so it's. And I liked all the places that I've been at. You hope when you leave you still have friends and relationships, and I've been very fortunate. Even Western Kentucky, I still talk to people that were there when we were there 41 years ago. So
very nice. Well, when you look at this season, everybody's obviously really excited about DeJuan Gordon. Has he exceeded your expectations since he's been on campus?
Yes, he's good. He's a good player. I worried about him, he's strong and all that stuff. But he is definitely he loves the game, and he's not Barry, but he's a lot like Barry in his mentality and how he approaches every day and how he loves the game and he plays it with a passion. So it's that part of it's very, very positive.
How do you see yourself handling the point guard role this season? I know there are a lot of guys you could put there. Do you have a feel on that yet?
Well, I think all of them. I think it's a positive we have that, that they all can play point to get. The more guys you can have that can dribble, pass, and shoot, the better off you're going to be. And so I think hopefully it's a positive. We can move Cardi from, the point to the two and allow him to have some freedom, so it gives us a nice advantage. Okay.
Do you have a good feel on what your starting lineup might be yet?
Oh, I know obviously your seniors, your older guys, you feel pretty good about. After that, we'll have a lot of different people. We'll probably be rotating. I hope, and I've said all along, I hope our depth is our best thing about us, but we'll have to see about that.
With Xavier Sneed, I know he's a guy you've utilized as a 3 and the 4 in the past. Is that something you want to keep doing, using him as a versatile player, or do you see him more at one spot now?
We'll just have to wait and see, to be honest. And, okay. I really want to play him at the 3 as much as possible, but I think we can take advantage, and I hope he wants to take advantage and have some success and play some small ball, but he's a natural 3, and that's where we'd like to keep him.
Okay. And last one for you here. I'm proud we were able to fit these all in, but you had a lot of older players come back and join your staff now. You got Schoen and Henriquez on there now. What's that been like to have that relationship with former players and have them want to come back and be part of the team?
Well, it's one of the things I'm real proud of as a coach, that we get guys that want to be in coaching, and they, that part of it's very positive. And it's great for them to, when you talk about success recruiting, to have those guys there to sell the program. We had a year ago, we'd sit with recruits, and one of them said, I played for him at Southern Illinois, I played for him at Illinois, I played for him at Kansas State. So, and they said and coaches, been there for us and helped us. So it's been positive, and they know what we really want from our guys. And so I think it's a great thing. I'm happy, and I love having our guys there.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks so much for squeezing me into your schedule, Bruce.
When we return, we'll hear from Jesse Newell on KU.
When it comes to saving you money on tires, nobody does it better than Big O Tires. Like saving you up to $120 on select sets of Goodyear, Yokohama, Pirelli, and Continental tires now through November 3rd. That's $70 off instantly, plus up to $50 back by mail-in rebate when you purchase using your Big O Tires card. Hurry into Big O Tires and see how much you can save. Big O Tires, the team you trust. For the location nearest you, go to bigotires.com.
Jesse Newell covers Kansas for the Star and Wichita Eagle. He joins us. And there was some basketball news this week, Jesse, with the commitment of a basketball player, Tyon Grant Foster. Grant Foster being hyphenated. Tyon, Tyon. We think that's the correct pronunciation of the first name, right?
That's correct, yes.
I'll tell you what, if Grant Foster doesn't have a contract with Foster Grant's Eyewear at some point in his career, then an opportunity has been missed. But this is a good news for Kansas to get a basketball commitment, and it's significant because it's the first one since the bad news of NCAA trouble for KU. So put it in perspective, Jesse. What does it mean that a player, 6'7", kind of a wing guy who played high school basketball at Schlegel in Kansas City and is at Indian Hills Community College in Iowa, what's the significance of his committing to Kansas post bad news?
Yeah, it's interesting, Blair, because I think it sort of depends on your perspective on this, and I think it also sort of depends how KU follows this up, because it's not very often that KU starts off with a JUCO commitment, and that's the first thing you have to start with for the 2020 class. The first guy that KU got to sign up was a guy that is a JUCO player, and that's just not common for Kansas. KU is used to pulling out the top of the top in the high school classes for good reason. JUCO guys have kind of seen a little bit more as risks most of the time. Having said that, Grant Foster in particular, there are some very nice things being said about him, and he sort of does seem to kind of fit the mold of a late bloomer and kind of a versatile player on the perimeter. And if you look at the list that he has, and again, it's sometimes a little bit dangerous, but K-State, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Arkansas, Georgia, LSU, Miami, Mississippi, Oregon. I mean, this is not a list of schools where KU is competing against teams that they're not normally competing against. So it seems like his services were wanted out there. And again, the fact that he is a local kid probably helped KU in their favor there. But it is also, it causes you to pause a little bit, because we know what's out there with Kansas basketball right now. We know potentially there could be NCAA sanctions coming. The 5 level 1 violations that were announced, allegations with the notice of allegations that came out a couple weeks ago. So for Bill Self and staff, it's been a struggle to recruit in the last year because of having to deal with that and the stigma of that. And so he's even mentioned, hey, KU might have to turn more to JUCO guys or turn more to maybe different avenues than they have before. So to start off this class with a JUCO player, I think that is where you first start with this. But then you take a step back and say, hey, it seems like a lot of people were after this kid and that he could be a very solid contributor in either right. So again, it kind of depends on your perspective, glass half empty, glass half full. But this is definitely something different than what we've seen from Kansas in the past.
Here's his quote in the story written by Gary Bedore about how Kansas communicated the NCAA inquiry. Mm-hmm. Quote, "They were right up front about it. They told me all the possibilities that could happen. Coach Self said he'd handle it," Grant Foster told Gary Bedore in a phone interview. So it sounds like Bill Self laid it out for him. So these are possibilities, and it didn't deter Grant Foster from signing with Kansas. As you said, he is not. And this isn't a player for 1920. He is on the. You pencil him in on the 2021 roster, which could look decidedly different. When we talk about how that roster shapes up because of the potential loss, there are a lot of guys that aren't going to be on the 2021 team that are playing this year.
And you can understand why Bill Self would want to lock some guys in just because of that. I mean, you can go down the line. We can go very quickly here. Devon Dotson, probably gone. Udoka Azubuike, gone. Sylvia DeSosa, probably gone. Ochai Agbaji, there's a possibility. Isaiah Moss is going to be gone. So, yeah, I mean, right off the bat there, that's 5 guys without even looking into people like Jalen Wilson potentially, David McCormick. So KU's got a lot of roster spots it's going to need to fill, so you can understand why Bill Self would want to lock someone like this in, just because at some point he's got some work to do. There's going to have to be more than one guy brought in for Kansas to replenish some of the talent that's going to be lost after this season. We might get to know more here. There's an interesting one coming up this week, and maybe some of our listeners here will know the result of this by the time it comes out, but pay attention to Isaiah Todd. He is down to both KU and Michigan. This is a real recruit here, like a top 15 sort of recruit. Again, KU is making a final push on him, visiting him, and same sort of thing that you mentioned, Blair, with Tyon, that Bill Self has kind of said, hey, let me handle this, the NCAA violations thing, the potential allegations. I'm going to be the one that handles that. But I think it has to be difficult for Self in this scenario, just because for the players coming back this year, let's say Devon Dotson or Udoka Azubuike, he knew all along that this year was not going to be affected. It's a little bit tougher to promise that for next year, because next year is an unknown, and 2 years after that is an unknown, and we don't know what the NCAA is going to rule, or the Committee on Infractions is going to rule for Kansas with these 5 level 1 violations. But that'll be an interesting one to track as well, because that is the type of player that KU usually gets, kind of in the Quentin Grimes type of mold, where, hey, you got a top 15 sort of recruit. These are the guys that KU usually can lock up here in the fall period. If KU is able to pull a guy from Michigan, away from Michigan as a finalist, in this scenario, then boy, Bill Self is really able to do some great work in recruiting, even in a tough scenario. If that one goes the other way, then again, it might just be an indication that things are going to change a little bit for Kansas in recruiting, and I think a lot of people would have expected that here from the outset.
Michigan with new coach Juwan Howard too,
yes,
with old Fab Five hero coaching them for the first time. Next time we talk to you, Jesse, Kansas will have gone through Big 12 Media Days at Sprint Center. That is a week from Wednesday, and Kansas has already gone through one media session. They had their school's basketball media day last week. Did anything come out of there that surprised you or opened your eyes a little bit? I thought Bill Self was, handled the NCAA information about the way you'd have expected him to. Didn't run away from questions, maybe didn't answer them as completely as you might have wanted, but did what he, I guess, had to do on the occasion.
Yeah, I know a lot of Kansas fans, and we all, I think, suffer from this sometimes. We sort of get locked into our own worldviews and being around people that are like us and maybe not understanding the full scope of what's going on here. This is the first media day I've attended, and somebody up there asked me, like, how many KU basketball media days have you been to? And I go, oh boy. Maybe like 12 to 15-ish. So, I've been up there for a lot of them. That's what happens when you hang around here and you've covered this team for most of your adult life. But ESPN's Mark Schwartz was there, a journalist who is well known. You often see him asking questions at the NBA Finals, and he was the one that was directly asking Bill Self a lot of those questions. And so I think a lot of Kansas fans think, some of the Snoop Dogg stuff that happened, you brush it off. It's not a big deal. National media members are overblowing it. Local media members are overblowing it. I'm just telling you, ESPN hasn't sent a guy and a film crew to Kansas to do these type of stories. And so I think what you can expect from Bill Self at Big 12 Media Days is a little bit more of the same like that, just that this is going to be an uncomfortable situation for a while. These are going to be questions that he continues to get asked. Now, listen, KU couldn't ask for a better person to handle that, because I've said many, many years that Bill Self could do about anything he wanted to do in life. He's just sharp. He's quick-witted. He's really good on his feet, discussing anything that kind of gets thrown at him. So as you said, Blair, I thought he handled himself pretty well in that scenario. I just don't think that this is a sort of thing that immediately will blow over, and especially in a preseason type of setting, these are going to be the type of questions that Bill Self is going to get asked over and over and over again. What was meant by the Snoop Dogg concert? What was meant by the big Adidas T-shirt? Are they trying to, quote, put the middle finger up at the NCAA? Those sorts of things. So I know KU fans, I've heard them on Twitter or Facebook or wherever, that they get frustrated that these storylines kind of keep recirculating, but that's going to happen in these sort of media sessions, because as you see more reporters and more national reporters involved in the story, this was a very, very big newsy thing, and that lasted more than a 24-hour news cycle when Snoop Dogg came down Fieldhouse, and KU obviously had some of the video things that we discussed in last week's podcast. I encourage people to go and check that out too. So I think this is going to last for a little while, and I also think that more than anything, Bill Self's ready for some games to get going, because once that happens, we all get a little bit distracted. We all get focused on the team and everything like that, and there will be a distraction. But up until that point, I think Bill Self's going to have to answer a few more questions. That's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but as I said before, he's always handled himself very well in those situations.
Okay, football, the Jayhawks travel to Texas. They catch the Longhorns coming off a tough loss in the Red River rivalry to Oklahoma, and they do so with the new offensive coordinator, Brent Dearman, who we did discuss him last week and what he may bring to Kansas in the offense. What we now know he also brings is a contract that indicates the Jayhawks and Les Miles' confidence in him. 2+ years on the deal?
Yeah. So, again, we pulled that contract through an open records request. I think a lot of people thought, hey, he's going to get the rest of the year to kind of audition for this job. Maybe KU will hire him and extend him beyond that point. Well, that's not what the contract is. He has 2.5 guaranteed years. Now, the guaranteed salary is lower than the previous offensive coordinator, so perhaps KU could make an earlier move if they wanted to. He's only going to make $250,000 base salary per year for these 2.5 years, whereas Les Kenning was making $500,000 per year. So maybe that's easier to make a move there, but it indicates to me that KU doesn't think that this is a 6-game trial. This is something, hey, they've signed up for him for 2.5 years, and then after that, there are actually 4 what I would call team options, as we kind of relate them in baseball, where KU can just continue to sign him for his current contract if they decide to do so. So a lot of details in that contract. People can check that out at kansascity.com. Some interesting things with if he leaves Kansas, he owes them $500,000. If he goes to another assistant coaching job, that is null and void if he leaves for an FBS head coaching job. So they're allowing him, if he gets that opportunity and is that good at his job, to go and pursue that. But some other small things in there. There are some one-time incentives and then some incentives that will boost him up and continue to pay him more with his salary. And those include some things I think that we laughed at LSU and Alabama, but things that are very real accolades for Kansas, like 6 wins in a season or a bowl game and those sorts of things. So if he has success and if Kansas has success, then Brent Dearman will get a little bit of extra cash to put in his pocket, and he'll probably have deserved that. So like I said, some fascinating details in there. People can check out all the details in our story on kansascity.com. But for now, it indicates to me that this is not a 6-game trial for Brent Dearman. Les Miles and then also athletic director Jeff Long, they have put their confidence and faith in him that he can move this thing going forward. And if not, KU is going to have to be on the hook for another payout to get somebody else in here to run the offense.
Story is also in the show notes. One of my favorite clauses is the $40,000 guaranteed for finishing 5th in the Big 12 in scoring offense, with a $20K increase for every position above that.
And how many teams there in the Big 12, Blair?
10.
So if you're average or just above average, I also, it's funny reading these contracts because my mind always goes to not conflict of interest, but you think of incentives. In baseball it happens all the time. Hey, if I get my 600th at bat, I get $25,000 extra dollars. So a guy is incentivized to stay in. For Brent Dearman, we'll see it this week against Texas, but we've heard a lot this week about KU emphasizing tempo. Well, here's one way to get yourself up in scoring average, Blair. You want to know what you do? You go faster and you get more possessions.
More snaps.
So, again, not to say that Brent Dearman is doing anything to get himself a $40,000 increase or whatever the case may be, but again, KU is going to be more likely to score more points per game if they get more possessions per game and have the ball more often per game. So sort of an interesting thing in there. They could have used yards per game. They could have used yards per play. That's probably what I would have used. But instead, they used points per game. So if KU speeds this thing up a little bit more than we saw under Les Kenning, I don't think anybody should be surprised.
All right, Jesse. Thanks for stopping by.
All right. Appreciate it, Blair.
When we return, Vahe Gregorian joins me to talk Mizzou football. And that offer I mentioned at the top of the show, here's how that happens. Hey, it's Blair. Hey, we have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns we have to offer. And it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. For your convenience, your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. A lot of subscription services won't tell you that. They'll just sneak it on there. We just told you. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star. Please visit kansascity.com/sportsbeatkc offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. Vahe Gregorian, he's here. How you doing, Vahe?
That's an achievement in itself, isn't it? If I keep you waiting like a woman scorned.
You were busy with the Chiefs today. We are recording this on Tuesday afternoon and playing it on Wednesday through the magic of the podcast. And it is magic, podcast magic.
You know, I'm struck by how magical you've made it by embracing it as you have. There's something happening with you.
Well, what's happening is you're doing the podcast or you're getting the hell out of here. That was the deal that I agreed to. Happily.
Huh. Okay.
So that, but enough about us. Let's talk Mizzou, Vahe, and a nice win for the Tigers. They were a big favorite, and they won by double digits over Ole Miss on Saturday night. They have Vanderbilt coming up on this weekend. Again, when we saw the Missouri schedule beginning of the season, we thought they could have a pretty nice record going into the teeth of the schedule, which really doesn't come until at least after Vanderbilt. And they have built a record nice enough to get into the polls finally. Yeah,
and look, good on them, well-deserved, especially just look at the way they've played these last 5 games. I know, Mississippi played a little catch-up there in the second half, but it was never a one-score game. At the end, and it's never over till it's over. But Missouri was going to win that game, and that was a little tighter than the rest of their recent games have been. But I had a little side contact with Coach Odom last week, and he felt that this would be one of their biggest, if not biggest, challenges until the Georgia game in some ways, and I think that's telling it. And thus they complete the 5-game homestand with 5 straight wins. Schedule oddity that now has them, after 5 straight home games, 3 straight on the road.
Yeah, and after starting the season on the road with the loss at Wyoming, and doesn't among those 5 wins, doesn't the South Carolina victory look better now after what the Gamecocks did this weekend? That moved, because South Carolina defeated Georgia between the hedges, I might add. That means there's only one team without a loss in conference play in the SEC East.
Well, that is what it means, and it also speaks to what we can say right here, right now about Missouri, with the exception of that bizarre quirk at the start of the season now. But let's just say they're trending this way. They're coming to play every week. This does not look like the type of team that will let down. Now, these are young people playing football. You never know exactly, right? But I think it speaks to Barry having their attention. I don't know why he didn't have their attention, or whatever the heck it was, that Wyoming game. But I dare say if they played them today, they'd beat Wyoming handily. But, it doesn't matter. They lost to them then.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And that prevented them from getting in the polls earlier and climbing higher. I suspect if Missouri was undefeated now, they'd be in the top 10. As it stands, Florida and Georgia are both like 9 and 10, I believe, in the AP poll. Missouri is 22. And I think that's the sort of the general consensus of the pecking order of the SEC East. Georgia, Florida in some order, and then Missouri. Although with South Carolina's win over Georgia certainly muddles it a little bit. But hey, look, if you're Missouri, you're happy to be in the polls. It comes with some recognition. It's regular season. You like the recognition, and it puts a little bounce in the step of a program when you got a national ranking next year. And look, I'm not calling for a letdown this weekend against Vanderbilt. I wouldn't be surprised if they came out a little lethargic after a win over a Mississippi team that had beaten. I think they've already beaten Vanderbilt pretty handily this year. But Missouri, it's not a game that I'm thinking upset alert or anything. So the real challenges would come after that with Kentucky, Georgia, Florida. I forget the order. Kentucky's the one after.
Yeah, it's Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Georgia. Then the one I couldn't remember. Yeah, it's at Vanderbilt, at Kentucky, at Georgia. Now, interestingly enough, that at Georgia is after Missouri's bye week.
Yeah, and the Georgia is after
their Florida game,
Georgia-Florida game.
And then Missouri plays host to Florida and Tennessee, and then at Arkansas. I think it's to Missouri's advantage in a way that they're playing at Vanderbilt this week, just because it's a different sort of attention that has to be called to this by the coaching staff. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'd be just fine if they were playing at home. But I do think it's a good time for that to work for Missouri. This is a good time for this game to be on the road.
Okay, I don't disagree with that. I think there's something to that. It gives them a little, maybe the worst team in the SEC coming to your place after you've come off an easy win. Maybe it'd be tough for players to get focused. I think it's less of a challenge to get them to focus when they go on the road against any opponent, really.
I think that's right. I think it really lends itself to that in this case. And I think also, I could be disproven on this soon, but somehow or another, this is a team playing with a purpose. And, of course, the lurking twist over this whole thing is the NCAA stuff, which is, another reason I give Barry Odom so much credit, right? I mean, nobody left, and he's kept their heads in the game without really knowing what is at stake, actually. They don't really know what they can do. They literally have no idea what the ceiling can be because of that.
It's actually a reason, if you're looking for one, that coaches say all the time, tell us that they're week to week. Well, with Missouri, because they don't know what's beyond the regular season, you can sell that idea pretty easily. All you have is the next game, and because if the NCAA ends up not accepting Missouri's appeal, they won't play beyond the Arkansas game. They're not going to be in the SEC. They wouldn't be in the SEC championship game if they won the East. There would be no bowl appearance for the Tigers if the NCAA upholds the bowl ban. So I think in that regard, if you're Barry Odom and the coaching staff, you can convince your team that all you've got is the next game. It's all you got. And the only people that believe in you are in this room and all that stuff that we sometimes laugh at.
Right.
But I think it can work for Missouri.
And put another way, and really in as many words, you're really striking me with this. Really, it actually lends itself to that quite perfectly, right? I mean, used properly, this is a coach's dream. We are week to week. Mm-hmm. All we care about is this game, because this game is our season, because we don't know what the rest of the season can bring. So, revel in the moment, right? I mean, I think that's pretty interesting. And I don't know what exact words or terms Barry has used with the team. I just know that at every checkpoint of this, he has been there with what has come to strike me as a really good pitch and presence. I've seen him come more and more into his own just in his dealings with the media, and I'm certain that's a direct translation with how comfortable he is with his team as well.
I know you've been impressed with him in post-game scenarios.
I have, and I wasn't the first couple years.
Same with me.
Yeah,
yep.
and I really didn't like that blow-up thing, and
there were a couple of them.
Yeah,
early on.
Yes, and I just thought this was a guy reaching, overcompensating, didn't know who he was, and look, all our pendulums swing a little bit till we get to where we are, I think, right? And I think that's sort of what's happened with him, and I think he's really at ease in his own skin, and I think I've seen this turn happen in about the last 2 years. I think he's felt just more comfortable in the seat, and I think he is absolutely felt like he has gotten the culture where he wants it, and with that, the people around him that he wants, both in terms of guys they recruit, but also, shaping and molding that coaching staff to be guys he feels, I think, real faith in.
Okay, so it's a 3 p.m. kick on Saturday, Missouri at Vanderbilt. Basketball season is on the doorstep here, and Missouri is going through its various media days and media opportunities. This time of year, the SEC media days are Wednesday. The preseason poll is out. The Tigers were picked 13th, and there are 14 teams in the SEC. So I didn't see who was picked last, but Missouri was right above them. I don't know. Look, the Tigers were 5-13 a year ago. It was not a happy season in Columbia, but a lot of folks returned. A lot of points and rebounds are back for Missouri, and I know they're excited about the recruits, and I know they're pretty excited about Drew Smith, the transfer point guard, who looks like he's going to step right in. And I think there's more reasons to feel better about Missouri than what's projected by the media who covers the SEC.
I think that's right. I think a couple things are going on here, right? In general, the SEC quality of play has gone up. It's not sort of that SEC of, I'm making this time frame up, but let's say 7, 8, 9 years ago where you felt like it's Kentucky, Florida, and that's it.
Yeah,
right.
I agree with that for sure.
So I think the coaching's improved and
Heck,
things
Auburn,
like that.
Auburn in the Final Four last year, South Carolina a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and so you can come out of the SEC and have a different name than the traditional ones, and the baseline's better. But I do wonder also if it's still a mentality covering the SEC or watching the SEC that you've yet to see Missouri make its real move in this conference, right? You just haven't. And
not since the first year. They were in the NCAA tournament the first year.
And then again with Konzo one year.
1 year with Konzo.
But out right away.
The Porter year.
Yeah. So
out right away on both occasions.
In a way, it's a bit of a weigh in on just Missouri in general, which, fair enough for the show me state to have to show it. But it's sort of, as you noted, just with the idea of Drew Smith, one guy can change a basketball team a little bit. Maybe that allows people to get in their more appropriate spots a little bit. The funny twist on this is that losing one guy the last couple of years has been pretty crucial. Losing a Porter early has changed the dynamic. Maybe we'll see that they've got enough maturity, enough depth that they don't have to have one guy, that makes the difference, but that they can get into the right spots if things fall their way for once. So I certainly wouldn't think they're 13th best team in that conference, but I guess they have to earn it.
I think that's right, and I'm excited to see them in Kansas City in Thanksgiving, the weekend before Thanksgiving in the Hall of Fame Classic with Oklahoma, Stanford, and Butler. I think are the teams in the tournament here, so that'll be fun. Okay, Vahe, thanks for dropping by.
Thanks, Blair.
The stories written by Kellis, Jesse, Vahe, and everybody else at the Star can be found on kansascity.com, and the ones we talked about today are in the show notes. Thanks to Kathy Liu and Leah Becerra for stitching together these conversations. And as always, thanks for listening to SportsBeat KC, the Star's daily sports podcast. We'll be back on Thursday with another episode. We are recording.